Hello there. We're going to paint this girl with acrylic paint. So this process is kind of intuitive. It's not as clear cut as my marker coloring in. So I just have a lot of different flesh color paints, and I usually mix these together just to get the shade that I want. So to start out, just to do a base layer, I'm going to mix together this kind of a medium one with this lighter pink one, and see how that goes. Also, I'm going to add in a little bit of matte medium. This makes it more translucent so you can do layering. I just like to layer even with my acrylic paints, and it's still, I mean, it also will help it not dry so fast, this matte medium. So let's mix this up and see how this color is going to be. Just to get started, just a base color, I think it's fine. Okay, so now I'm going to start painting. I'm going to avoid where the highlights are going to be. So I like to just mark those out so I don't forget. It's not as important because I can always go over it with white paint, but it just helps me remember what I want to do. Well, that didn't work. Anyway, it's just a little reminder for me where my highlights are going to go. So let's go ahead and start painting this in. This isn't really as thin as I would like it. Might add a little bit more matte medium. I'm gonna add some more matte medium. The good thing about acrylic paint is you can just cover it up if you don't like what you did. So oops, doesn't matter. You know what, I'm just gonna cover those up just for simplicity. Doesn't really matter. I can add those in later. So let's do this too. I also like to thin it out like this because I can see through the layer, and I'm not painting. I don't have to be so careful about my drawing because I can still see it. This technique is called, let's see, where you make it thin for layering. It has a name. I saw it at first from Jane Davenport. I'm gonna take my sweater off. Too hot. Glazing, I think is what she calls it, glazing. So let's go ahead and put this translucent layer down on everything as a starter. It's kind of boring probably watching me paint this in. Sorry about that. But I wanted to do it in real time. Okay. There's that. Got that done. I rinse my brush off. Got some water here and a paper towel, and just now what I'm gonna do is make my mixture a little bit darker. I'm gonna add this dark brown to this for some highlights. And my faces, they kind of end up different every time when I do acrylic paint. You just kind of, doesn't want to come out. You just kind of do what feels good, what feels right. But you'll see how I do this one. So I'm just gonna put a little bit over there. A little bit darker than that. You can also do shading with purple. That's fun to do sometimes. So this is just going to be kind of a light shading that goes beside the hair. I think I need a smaller brush. Let me get a smaller brush. Let's see, use this one. Okay, so right here the eye has some shadow. I have to make some more of that color. You can always darken the shadows later. So it's just a lot of layering and playing around, basically. It's basically the same steps as alcohol markers, just using acrylic paint. The way I do it, the way I layer it and stuff. It's kind of the same. Also with watercolor, you do in layers as well. I guess that's just kind of my style, how I like to paint. Okay, let's see, under the nose. This is not coming up very much. And kind of under the nose. And this, these acrylic paints, they always go through an ugly stage, so don't panic. It's not going to look good until it all comes together at the end. That's kind of how it works. Let's see, let's put some around this crease here. This crease. Put some next to the eye here. Guess I'll do it on both eyes today just because I feel like it. Again, just remember, it goes through this ugly stage, so we're just kind of getting some marks down. We'll be covering this up. This is going to be a layer underneath. And I'm going to do just subtle shading for these examples. It's kind of something I knew I started doing is this little, just a little bit darker here on the sides of the nose. It looks good when you're done. All right, let's go under the neck. Ooh. Okay, there we go. I think I'm gonna do a little bit here too on the side. I also like to do these more painterly, where you just do little brush strokes. I'm not good enough at that to do a tutorial, so it's super fun. I really like painting that way. All right, so there's that layer. I'm gonna rinse off my brush. Kind of thinking about what I want to do next. I think I'm gonna do some of the darkest highlights under the nose. And this is where it's really dark, under the nose. Under here. And then under here. Pretty much exactly the way I do my markers. Kind of the same steps for this. Let's go into this crease here. All right. I think she's looking pretty good, just for some basic shading. So now, let's kind of go over it with a translucent layer to blend it all together. And we can put some highlights on, and then from there I'll decide if it's good or if we need to keep adding layers. So I just put some of that matte medium there. Mix over here, I think. Make a translucent, a pretty thinner, more see-through than the first one was. And this is the glazing part. I think that's why they call it glazing, because then you put this glaze over the top of it. And it kind of just brings it all together. It's really cool. I like it. Let's see how it just kind of makes it all one. I think it looks pretty cool. Whoa. Oh, that's my timer. Okay, I'm going to do these in 10-minute increments, so just a second.